broadcast, recorded broadcast, and then there's a link directly to the recorded broadcast on the agenda. So good afternoon to all of you. Thank you guys for coming together again. I think this is our fourth time. We've got one more ahead of the 3-5 group. So this is our fourth meeting, if I'm correct in my numbers. You have the agenda now. You can go ahead and take a look and see what we're looking at. We're moving into step 3 today, doing a little bit of work on the side of step 3 because I think some of the conversation will go quickly. And then we're going to move over to developing writing fluency and brainstorm together some strategies for next year, going into the beginning of the year and what we can do to set up some activities and routines in our classrooms for fluency for the K-2 classroom. And then I want to talk to you guys at the end about school membership. So I'm going to start off sharing my screen, and as I always do, and I'm going to go over just the agenda very quickly and just make sure everyone's on the same page. I changed the top of the agenda just a little bit to reflect the recorded broadcast and why sometimes schools that come on a little late can't see the actual live. Google only allows up to 10 groups to be on at once. The other groups are following along, but they are following along seconds behind, and it's not live for them, but they definitely can participate in everything that we do. So we're going to talk about publishing and sharing, and then writing fluency here, and at the end, our third part is going to be our school membership. So I first want to start talking about publishing and sharing in step 3, and publishing applications. So in our standards, it talks about having kids retell their stories verbally through pictures, and then using with guidance technology. And some of you guys are very comfortable with this, and some of you are still scratching the surface and how this looks and what will that look like. So I want to make sure that you guys understand kind of like what the expectation is and how much we actually have to do with our kids and what sorts of things are out there that can help our kids. So one thing is there's a number of animation softwares out there, animation applications that are available for iPads and other mobile devices that our students can use to retell stories. They can be stories that they've written. They can be stories that they've heard that you've read to them. They can also be stories that are kind of told around and repurposed, and so that's kind of in their culture to know these certain stories, like the tortoise and the hare or something, for example. So giving them applications like Puppet Pals, or there's a number, and there's going to be an opportunity to talk about that in our groups, but there's a number of applications that we can use if we wanted them to publish with technology. Students don't always have to publish with technology, but that is a good way, and it's exciting for them to retell their stories. MP3s, if you just use your iPads and use a recording software, you can just record them speaking. So that's another way of doing it. Instead of having them develop any animation, you can just have them speak to a microphone and record it. In small groups, you can use your own phone and have them read their stories out loud, and you can capture a number of students with those stories. So there's a number of ways that we can either animate those stories that they want to retell, or we can capture them speaking so we can kind of hear how they sound when they are speaking. And then there's also some low-tech ways of doing this. Student presentation is a low-tech way of publishing. After students are finished writing, they can stand up in front of the class and they can speak their story to everyone. They can retell a story that's their favorite. I would suggest them writing it first, though, or the kid might get a little lost in his or her own words and drag you through a very long explanation of the story that's not necessary. Then there's also writing it. So if you take kids through peer review and their paper is marked up with greens for capitals and reds for periods and orange for punctuation, and there's some circled misspelled words, then what you can have them do is rewrite the entire paper, rewrite the entire text that they've written, and then add pictures to it, and that's another way of publishing. So we can have our kids publish through animation, some sort of digital software. or we can have them do some low tech, which is just stand and speak or record into a microphone, and then we can have them rewrite and add pictures. There's a number of different ways, and I would suggest that you come up with variations so that the kids get excited about different ways of publishing their work. Some of you in the room, you guys will publish in a full magazine, or you'll create like a class book, and that's another great way to get them excited about putting all their work together and then put it on a shelf, and kids during time where they have maybe a few minutes, or they're ahead of someone else with their homework, or you want them to silently read and they want to choose what students have written, they can go to the shelf and pick up the class book, and they can look at their own writing, they can look at their peers' writing. So there's a number of different ways that we can get our kids to publish. That's fun. And don't always feel like what they're writing has to be graded either. So a lot of their writing that you do, just publishing it is enough. Just publishing it alone is enough, not having to give them some sort of grade. And then you're going to see it, and you're going to be able to assess where they are with their writing. So allow yourself a little bit of leeway, especially you second grade teachers, where grading becomes a little bit more top of mind. Think about how you can get your kids' work out there and get them writing more without you having to do a ton of grading, and reducing that workload for you a little bit. So that's just A, so publishing and sharing and using applications. But there's another part to it. So instead of just seeing it as an end of the writing process, let's look at it as how publishing can also address our speaking and listening standards. So our speaking and listening standards for many of us can be confusing and can be a big question mark in our instruction. Where do I get my kids to speak? How are they supposed to be speaking? What are they supposed to be speaking about? How often should they be speaking? And we hear them in class discussions, and we hear them in our small groups, but that's not really what the speaking standards are about. Certainly there are one or two of them that are about collaborative discourse, but there are some other specific things that students need to do. So what I've developed for us today is an activity where we're going to take a look at our speaking standards. And I'm going to assume that we're going to be looking at the Common Core standards for now. If you guys have your own speaking standards, then you can look at those, but I'm pretty sure that the Common Core standards are going to give us the guidance that we need. And if you look at our agenda, you will see that there's a link right to the speaking standards, and you will see kind of some questions that guide us. So my goal is to do two things. One, get you more familiar with your speaking standards, and two, tie them to the writing process. So instead of seeing all these as separate acts or separate tasks, I think that it helps us when we can connect things. So if I want my kids to publish, and one of the ways I want them to publish is to speak, or use modern technology to present information, then I bet I can tie some of these speaking standards to the publishing of written work. So the first step is to understand what the standards say. And then the second is, how can our teaching practices and writing assignments prepare students to meet these standards? So what sorts of things can we do to prepare our kids for the types of speaking standards that they need to learn and master? So if you go over to the collaborative document, you can click on it, and then there's a link. And if you click on the link, you'll be taken over to an activity, which many of you are now starting to join. And if I did it right this time, last time I think I did not allow you to edit. You guys could just view it. I think you can now edit. I've created 3 different tables. I've got grade K, and then I have grade 1 and 2. So those are the 3 grade levels that I would like us to focus on today. And what I'm wanting you to do is write a standard in this first column. And then what I want to explore with all of you collaboratively is, what are some of the instructional practices and assignments that I can give? So for example, if a standard says retell a story, um, maybe retell a story so that an audience can clearly follow and understand the main ideas. Let's say that was my standard. Over here, as an instructional practice, I can suggest that students stand with a partner and read or retell their stories. And that now accomplishes the writing piece of publishing your work, and then it goes with a standard. So I know that I just wrote these in here very quickly, but actually I want you to paste in the standard. So I don't want this to be made up over here on the speaking and listening standard side. I want it to actually be a standard that you guys are responsible for teaching, and then I would like you guys to come up with some instructional practices. Once the standard is in, let's say this is all modeling for you right now. Let's say this is speaking and listening 2. You don't need to paste that anywhere else except speaking and listening 2. I'd like to see, because I like to think this way, that this would be SL1, this would be SL2, and so on. And then over here, you can have your list of ideas. So someone else might say, using MP3 files, students take turns recording their voices, and you go from there. But it's all about SL1. So once the standards are pasted into this left column, then you guys can come up with some activities that, remember, address both the reading and the writing and the standard itself, the speaking standard. So I want us to be very efficient with the way we teach, and I think this is one way to do that. So instructional practices and assignments for speaking and writing, specifically the publishing aspects. So I'm going to give you guys, let's take about 8 minutes, see how fast we can do this. And I want all schools on. I want you guys to jump into the collaborative document, and if you're watching the recorded broadcast, I'd like you to join in on this document. You can still click on the links and put in some ideas that we could all use going into next year for teaching, speaking, and listening through the writing process. If you do know applications specifically for Standard 5, where it asks students to record or create stories with technology, please put those links in the document so that others can learn about them. And you can link out to either the website or to the actual app so that others can kind of see what's out there and what they might consider using next year with their own technology in their classrooms. Let's take a few more minutes, maybe 2. You guys are doing a great job. Excellent ideas, activities. Take about another minute and a half, minute and 45 seconds. Mhm.
Jonathan, can you hear me? This is Carol.
Yes.
Some of the teachers, while they're working, were asking about the teacher guide. They got an email that the SOAR was now ready. Was that what you were talking about, that they would be getting?
Well, when we first started working with you guys this year, the K-1 teacher guide was being prepared and built, and it was ready, and we shipped that. And I hope teachers got those books, because it's been about a month and a half since we've shipped those. And then the 2-3 guide has just been released. We just printed it last week.
Now, is that something that the teachers will be getting then?
I'm not sure. Carrie and I are going to have to discuss that.
Okay, that was just one of the questions they were asking about. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and begin and start talking about the document that you guys just built. This is exactly what I was hoping for. You're always such a great group, and participate and share your brilliance with everyone across your district. Really good activities, and what I love to see is how clearly the work that you're doing in the classroom connects to the speaking and listening standards. In some ways, we know we're doing a lot of speaking and listening, but this is the evidence that we need. This is the documentation that we need to see to feel good about what we're doing, and to maybe tweak a few things that we're doing in our classrooms to make sure that they're fitting exactly what the standards are asking us to do. So these strategies here, remember I say every time, they're now here for you. So the different teaching practices and the activities, you guys have this document that you can look at when you're planning for next year. And there will always be a part of this agenda. So all you need to do is go back into the agenda that we've had for Literacy TA in the writing sessions, and you can go in and you can look at it and review it, borrow, steal, do whatever you need to do in order to get this done in your classroom. These are great ideas, things that you're already doing, working in your daily 5. I love having students stand and read from their journals. Students are practicing the knee to knee. So those are some of the rules and guidelines that we need to follow with our speaking and listening. Adding drawings, thought bubbles, sitting back to back with a peer and sharing ideas, just practicing listening to their voice and not actually looking at them is a great practice. Students creating their own questions and guiding them through that. You know, of course, the talking sticks that are so popular, and I think there's an online app for teachers with talking sticks that allow you to choose students and then rate their responses. So one thing that we could add to this document is, if we have them, links to some of the online pieces that you guys are talking about. That way, others of us who don't know, so if it says, for example, in the grade 2, it says digital storytelling using technology to enhance the presentation. If there are specific tools and resources that you know, putting in those links would be great. If you're talking about Prezi, putting in a link to Prezi would be, I think, really appreciated by the teachers across the district. Reader's Theater is so much fun. I mean, absolutely a blast. Puppet Theater, if you haven't done that before, is also fantastic. Have the kids create their own puppets out of socks, so sock puppet theater. I did this with 7th graders, and it was an absolute kick and a half. We put boxes and built sets with boxes, and had a lot of fun with them. And having their mouths move with the sock is hilarious. So getting kids to do that. This is a great list, you know, and you should go into next year feeling very good about the resources that you have and how you guys geared them towards writing. For example, I see here when students are peer editing, they can ask questions to clarify misunderstandings. Absolutely, 100%, this is exactly what we want. How do I teach reading and writing and then use the speaking standards to drive that work and to support it through collaborative interactions, and then make sure that I tweak what they write and I tweak what they read to fit some of these other speaking standards that get more complex as you go through the grade levels. So this is outstanding. Think about, too, when you're publishing, if you have a text center and you're not quite sure what you want to do in regard to writing in your text center, if you've got 5 laptops or 8 laptops or 5 iPads, have the kids retell their stories through recordings or through animation, and then they can play them for each other. Excellent use of laptops or excellent use of mobile devices is retelling stories, and then it's standard-based. So you guys did an excellent job with this. I really appreciate it. And I just get excited because I see the vision here. I see that you guys have all of your brilliance on this paper now across the district and getting great ideas from each other. It's just invaluable. So I thank you for that very, very much. So let's take a look. I know we move quickly, but that's just the way this 1 hour goes. Let's take a look at fluency. So now we're in step 2, moving on from the collaborative document. You want to add some ideas, please do, but you want to stay as present as possible so that you can follow along. So developing writing fluency with class journals. As an upper grade teacher, I've been using journals, I call it the J. I've been using journals for the last, 10 years. I pretty much have used journals all throughout my career. And I have to say that it's probably one of the best tools I use when teaching students how to write and developing their fluency. My journal is more complex because my kids are in their teens, but the spirit of what I do, I think, can be applied, and the conversations that I've had with elementary school teachers, I think, tells me that you guys can do these types of journals that I've outlined here. So I'm going to give a quick summary of what I do, and then I'm going to go into some of the things that you guys can do. All of my students have spiral notebooks, and I go to Target once a year. I buy 150 of them because that's how many students I have, and I just give them the spiral notebook on the first couple days of school. We decorate the cover of the spiral notebooks by with pictures and packing tape. So we put pictures on the front and the back, and then we use long clear strips of tape, and we lay it over the front, and then I have them just wrap the tape underneath the cover, and it makes a laminate over the front of the journal. Then we have a table of contents. So every time they write in the journal, they have to keep track of the date it was written, the type of writing that we're doing, the title of the work, and then the page number. They have to keep track of all those things. And this is all part of the J, what I call the J. And then our very first page is an interest list. The first entry is an interest list because there's some days either I'm not prepared or they want to write about what they want to write about. I created an interest list so that I can say today's a free day, write about what you don't know what they want to write about. I can say go to your interest list, pick a topic that you want to write about, and start writing. So the very first page is an interest list. Then from there, we do all sorts of drawings mixed with writing. We do all writings. We do sometimes just drawings, like we do a story map of their life, all through pictures. And it's like a treasure map that weaves around the page. Very, very interesting things that we do in the journal, and they record those in the table of contents. I've been working on that with them this year with my current students, and we are on page, I think, 55 or 60. So we've written about 60 pieces this year in our J. So let's make that accessible for your kids and how we can do that. So if you look at the agenda, what I'm looking at now on my other screen, one thing we can do is we can create reader response journals. And some of you do this, and some of you have heard about it. Some of you want to try it, and you're waiting for the right time. Well, maybe this is the right time. A reading response journal is something that you can put together with kids, multiple papers stapled into a booklet. How big the booklet is entirely up to you. How many pages it is entirely up to you. But you have a reading response journal that's specific for writing about their reading. And you can put the questions into the journal pre-making them. So you would have pages that have printed questions on there, and then you'd have blank pages, so that when you put them together, you'd have the question in the blank page. Or you can have your kids write in the questions on, say, the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side is them writing about the question that's been asked. And this would all be about text. So what was the main character's challenge, or what is one way you can connect with the main character, or give me 3 adjectives to describe the main character. What was the main event that caused the main character to act? These kinds of questions you can ask, and then the students can work together in reading groups or independently, and they can work at completing the response journal. The other way you can do it is you guys can put lined paper. So if you're working on writing paper, you can put writing paper in this reader response journal so that they can work on their handwriting as well. And for most of you, you would say, well, they can't write without the writing paper anyway, so that's going to be non-negotiable, and that's fine. The writing paper is a perfect thing to put in there. Another type of journal is a 3-ring writing journal. So this is like a hardcover, half-inch writing journal that stays in the classroom, stays in their desk, and you populate it with a number of things. You populate it with writing paper. You can put verb lists in there. You can put supports for the peer review tasks that you're doing. So this becomes kind of like their little handbook for writing. But then you could put writing paper in there, and then you can do the fun fluency pieces that you want to just knock out in 10 or 15 minutes. Be careful, though. Your kids are going to want to do peer review all the time once they start doing it. So they're going to ask you to peer review everything. At least that's been our experience. But this is going to be a place where they do more informal writing. and then they keep track of that writing. And the reason why they're loose leaf in there is because sometimes kids write more than others, and if I staple my booklet together and they want a new page, it's really hard for me to insert a new page. So this type of writing on their own, developing fluency, it's really a nice way to be able to add and take away pages just by opening up the ring and hole punching some paper and putting it in. In addition to that, you can make them more custom, or you can make them more unique to the children by giving them 2 pieces of computer paper and buying the spirals that have those plastic covers that you can slide something in the front and the back. Then they can design it in the beginning of the year with pictures of things that they love, drawing ideas, scenes, and then they can slide their picture in the front. You can also theme then your journal. So if you want them to write during seasons, you can have them create pictures or give them pictures to color. They can color those pictures and slide them in, and now the journal is suitable for a season, right? So they now have, you might have a fall-looking journal, and then they pull those out when they get into the winter, and then you have a winter-looking journal. However you want to do it, but it makes it very flexible. And because they're half-inch, or I think 1 inch is too big, but half-inch, they're pretty affordable, and you might be able to shop around and get 20 or 35 of them, depending on your kids, how many you have in your class. We have 35 in our grade 1 and 2 classrooms, which is quite a bit. So those journals are a great way, something that you can use. So that's an exciting thing. So our next collaborative activity takes us to a place where we can pull our resources together to talk about some of these possibilities. So if you go to the agenda and you click on activity, you'll be taken to another document that's waiting for your brilliance. And this document is about how you can use writing journals. And the way I've created this is I have an idea, and then you're going to just write what your idea is. So my idea would have been to use a 3-ring binder and put different seasonal pictures in front of it so that it kind of goes with the seasons. The purpose of this journal is to, or the purpose of this is to, I should probably take away this journal. The purpose of this is to, and what is that? What is the purpose? Well, for me, it would be thematic. I would want to theme my journal and make it very closely tied to the types of discussions and readings that we're doing in class. And then when using this, you might want to, and so it's pretty open document, but I want just a ton of your brilliance on this page. Lots of ideas that you can give us to help us with the journal ideas. If you want to do a reader response journal, then do that. So it says, I have an idea. Use a reader's response journal during, and then whatever you have set up in your class. What time? What is the purpose? The purpose is to, and then just talk about it, and then tell us some of the things, like, keep it here, or organize it this way, or have kids write for 15 minutes. Give us the logistics, give us all the details, so that if we do find something we like, we can use it. So I'm going to give you guys about 5 to 7 minutes, because I still need to wrap this up and get you out of here on time. So let's do about 5 to 7 minutes. You guys working on this. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you guys can see what's happening, and then I'll review it when we're done. So let's take some time, give some great ideas. If you guys are seeing my comments, I'm not sure if you guys can see them or not. You're more than welcome to drop comments into the document as well as you read over some of your colleagues' ideas. Um, it, I'm just responding and reacting to the thoughts. Can you guys see them okay? Can you see my comments? Are they coming in? You can certainly see them on the screen. I just don't know if you can see them in the document itself. But if you guys want to drop comments, please do. The way that works is you just click your cursor in front of a word or behind a word, and then at the top of the screen there's a little call out. It says insert comment. It's a little like a bubble, and you click on it, and then you can type any idea that you want. You can also respond. Oh, good. So someone described or defined baggy books. Oh, very cool. Hmm. We'll take 30 more seconds. Another aspect of journals is setting routines. So whenever we're learning something new, it's always good to not think about the process. It's easier to learn new information when the process is memorized and mastered, and that way you can focus on the new stimuli that's coming in, the new information, and then you can work on how you're responding to it. Anything that we do, if there's something that we can set up as a routine, something that we can predict, something that if we follow this process it will work, we can then start to deepen our understanding of ideas. We can push ourselves to do things that we weren't capable of doing before. So a journal, whether it be a reading response journal, a math journal, the science journals, the history journals, it allows for students to get into a routine. This is the resource that I use, this is how it's used, and then as we give them more information, they're able to do more with it because they know what to expect and they know what your expectations are. And that's extremely important to the learner. When they know exactly what you're expecting them to do, then they can actually get to the work and start thinking about it and push themselves. And we can push them because they're ready to be pushed. If I change the knowledge and I change the input and I change the output and I change how they react to everything in the classroom, then the student's juggling lots of things. They are juggling what your expectations are, where they're supposed to be, how they're supposed to act, what you want, when you want it, and I know that you guys set up your routines, but this is just another way of doing that. Is having a journal that they can go to, whether it's made by you, or they make it, or you buy it at, say, Target or Walmart, and it's already ready to go. I would imagine that those spiral notebooks and those journal books that they sell, the composition books, I guess they're called, those would probably be a little bit better for some older students, but I don't know. I don't know if first grade classroom composition books is a good way to go. I don't know. The lines certainly would be a challenge, but I don't, again, I'm not sure exactly where your kids are, what they're capable of doing. Second grade, maybe a composition book or spiral notebook is more appropriate. Third and fourth and fifth, absolutely appropriate. So as we go through this and move into next year, I want you to start thinking about how you can maybe set this up as part of your routines. And talking about next year, I wanted us to end on talking about our school membership. So this is something that we didn't have when I started with you guys at the beginning of this year. And now that we are moving into next year, I wanted to go over this really quickly because I think this is what I've been wanting for Chatham County, North Carolina for a long time. I've worked with Derek Jordan, and I've worked with Carrie Little for so many years now, Terry Greenland. I have worked in your district for quite a while, and I've been trying to figure out and move through different superintendents. I think I'm on my third superintendent in your district. I've been trying to figure out ways that we can make this work more sustainable, ways that we can continue the momentum, and ways that we can support you year after year. And I think this is going to be a way we can do it. It's called LiteracyTA Schoolwide Membership. And what I'm focusing on is a commitment to excellence, which is part of the challenge that I set for you guys last time we met, which was put writing posters up in every classroom, K-2, and put the step process and the reading process up so that everyone would see it and the kids would have an experience with it as they move through grade levels. But a commitment to excellence is doing your best, trying your hardest to improve student literacy every day. And I know all of you are focused on that. But there's a lot of competing things that kick out some of the work that we do. And we want to commit to the reading and the writing and the speaking in all of our content or subject area. So when we're teaching our kids science, we want them writing about science and speaking about science. And I know that that's the goal, and I know that that's what we try. And I know that we pack in a ton of things in a class day. But here's where I think we can help. With this membership, we're constantly in touch with you, and we give a roadmap of how you can sustain the momentum in your school. So the bronze is all of them, bronze, silver, and gold. It's just basically how much you're putting into it for each school site. Everyone needs to sign this pledge, and what the pledge is just a fun thing to do as a staff about our commitment to student success. And this is the pledge over here that you can open, print out, and our vision is to have these printed on big posters in the main office, and all teachers sign them, and they sit there all year to remind us of the pledge that we've taken to excellence. All of you guys have the teacher assistant, and all of you are signed in, so you're already getting these green check marks. All teachers attend the TA orientation, which you've done with me or your colleagues, so you're already moving quickly down the page. All staff agrees on one skill if you just want to be bronze. But look at gold. If you want to be gold, the staff needs to decide on 3 skills. So 3 things that every single teacher on campus does. 3 skills, everyone does it. K to 5, K to 6, depending if you're a K8, K to 8, everyone in the school does it. All teachers talk about the work that's happening. All teachers talk about the skills that you guys are teaching in your classes, the 3 that you agreed on. That's the work that you talk about when you meet. Reading and writing process posters are in every room. We've talked about that. And then the next piece is you can meet with us once a month to talk about how things are going. How's the checklist going? How are we at? Where are we at with the sign-in? Where are we at with signing the pledge? Where are we at with our posters? And this is that roadmap that I think I've been wanting to put out for you guys to give you that support, but I just haven't wrapped my mind around it. And last month it just kind of came clear that this is the direction I think that we need to go in order to support our schools that we've been in for so long in order to get this work done. Workshops. If you're bronze, you get 10% off your workshop. So if you guys want to do a LiteracyTA University this fall online, you can, and it's 10% off if you guys are school members, and it's 20% off if you're gold members. And then staff members attend the university. If you're bronze, there's no expectation of anyone going to university. But if you want to be silver or gold, it's 5% or 10% of your staff have to attend every year. And the reason why we do that is because we know the more staff development you get, the more clear this becomes and the better you're going to get at executing it in your classroom. And then we have ZAP classes for student success. And then if you guys are interested in developing this, I've worked with many of you for so many years, you guys, if you want to be gold, you can work on getting a number of your teachers. We require a minimum of 2, but 2 teachers become literacy coaches, certified literacy coaches, LiteracyTA coaches. And then after a couple of years of training, you guys can be leaders and trainers of LiteracyTA materials and resources in your own district. And we know that when you have literacy leaders on campus, schools do so much better because there's an expert on campus that can help in the classroom, they can model, they can sit down with you and help you plan. So this is kind of our vision and our next steps. And you know, I don't know how this is going to go with every individual school, but I would really like for us next year to make this be our focus. That let's just make some commitments to excellence. Let's make some commitments to the ways we teach and what we teach and how we teach our kids. Let's get on board and do some common practices, and then let's go through and get these posters up in classrooms, and let's get connected more with LiteracyTA and have us help you through this throughout the year. It doesn't look like the work that we're doing is going anywhere, and it looks like this is the work that we need to be doing. So this is the direction that I'd like us to go. And if this sounds interesting to you, and you guys can look at it on your own time and your own pace, then please talk about it with your staff to try to figure out if this is where you'd like to go. Because I think this is the roadmap that we need, and we have the resources, and we're starting to develop more books. We have our teacher guide now for 2-3. So if you can get your K-1 and your 2-3 teachers on board, and then we can get the 4-5 teachers when that book comes out, and then we can get these posters up, and we can get people to LTAU University, I think we can get more movement, and we can start to perfect these skills that we've been talking about for the last year and for all the years before that I've been working with the grades 3 to 5, 3 to 6. So it's something to think about. It's definitely on my mind. You guys are constantly on my mind, and there's one major reason why that is because you guys are awesome. I really, truly mean it. I always say it. I'm not going to stop saying it. I love working with you. You're an amazing group of teachers and people, and it is such a privilege and an honor to be your colleague and to have your time as often as possible so that we can learn together and move forward. The documents that we've created, the online you have, the agendas are going to be there. All you need to do is open them up. All the recordings are here. You guys can watch these videos at any time, go back, review, show them at staff meetings, do whatever you need to do with them. So I want to thank you guys so much. This is the end of our last session for this school year. I'm working with Carrie right now to figure out what we're going to do with a live session. It might happen in August. But I just wish you guys the best of luck and the best summer you've ever had. And thank you so much for all the work that you guys do and the love that you bring to teaching and the passion that you have with all of your curriculum. You guys are the best. So thank you so much for your time. Have a great summer and the rest of the school year. So thank you.